Hi guys, welcome to the channel. This is Waga. We are going to continue with a series of videos on looking at SwiftUI, and what we're going to look at today is the gradient, right? Now the gradient conforms to the what's it called, shape style protocol, and that means that we could use it to color and fill shapes and other things, right? And how it works is pretty simple. You could use a gradient. There are three types of gradient. We're going to look because they're basically interchangeable. We'll be looking at angular gradient and yeah, basically that. And I'll talk a bit about linear, and there's also radial gradient. So yeah, but we're mainly concentrating on angular gradient because the others are basically a lot of the same, right? So what we could do is we could come here, and this is just our basic app. We could say, give ourselves a few colors. We could say, let's gradient equals gradient, and then we pass in an array of colors. We could say colors, and the array is going to be dot red and dot blue, like so. And we could come down here, and like I had said in the Z-Stack video, that you can add backgrounds using you could Z-Stacks are really a really nice way to add backgrounds to views, right? Like if you want to add background to the entire view, right? So what we could do is here we could create a Z-Stack like so, and we could just say we could say angular gradient, and in it we could pass in the gradient. It takes in a gradient, and the gradient we're going to pass in is just the gradient that we described up at the top, and the center is going to be dot, there's bottom leading, let's put center, yeah, like so. So when you hit this, we'll see view. So we see this is our view, right? And we could also put in an angle. You see the angle here, the way it is split in the middle. We could add in an angle if we wanted. Like we could come here and say angle, and we say in degrees, it could be, let's say 30. So you see there's a slant here, let's say 45. What does 45 look like? What does 90 look like? I'm guessing, so yeah, it's going to be horizontal. So basically that. So that's how you would create, for example, that's how you would create a background using the angular gradient. Another thing you could do, you could put it on shapes. Like I said, it conforms to the shape style protocol. And for you to put it on shapes, how you would do that is, let's come here and we could say, let's copy this. Let's cut it actually and put it here. And afterwards we could say, if you do this, you have to say return. You have to add a return here so it can be returned. But we're going to be defining the angular gradient here. Let's say let angular gradient, like so, equals angular gradient, like so. And it's going to take in a gradient of type gradient, like so. And the center is going to be the center, like so. And we're actually creating a circle, and we don't have to put an angle, okay? We could just leave the angle as it is, right? And after that, we could have come here, get rid of the Z stack, and we could instead replace it with a V stack. And in the V stack, let's give it a spacing and say spacing of 20, like so. And after that, we could we have to return the V stack. Sorry, I forgot to do that. We need to return this, so we could return the V stack. And after returning the V stack, we could say circle, like so. And we're going to fill the circle with the angular gradient. We say angular gradient, like so. And if we resume, we should see it. Yeah, so we have our circle with our angular gradient. And after that, another thing we could also do is we could put it to, let's say we put it on, you could put it on a button or something. And how you put it on the button is by just defining the button. Let's say we wanted a button and we wanted to give it an angular gradient that looks like this. And how we would do that is we would come here and say action and do this, and The text in the button could be gradient, like so. And let's make our circle smaller. It's too, I think it's too big. I think you'll agree that our circle is a bit big. We could say a frame, we could give it a frame. And the frame is going to have a width of, let's say 300. Is 300 too much? 300 seems okay. 300 seems okay. And we come here to the text, and in the text, we could give the foreground color. Let's make the foreground color white. Foreground color, let's say dot white. I think it's more. It will be more in line. I'm thinking of the simulator. The simulation is black, remember? And or it will change automatically whether you put white or black. Yeah. But you could just add that, and after that we could add a padding, and make it horizontal like so. And next we could add a background. Now this is where we get our what's it called? This is where we use our gradient, right? And when you use a rounded rectangle, you need a corner radius, and our corner radius can be 10. And after that, we could fill it. It's a shape, remember? So we could fill it just like we filled the circle. You could see here angular gradient. We say angular gradient like so. And yeah, what's the, oh, sorry. This fill is supposed to be outside the corner radius, so we could say dot fill. Dot fill, and we say angular gradient, like so. So let's look at it on our simulator. I think it will look a bit better. And so we have the button here. We have the gradient here. Yeah. So basically, we could reshape them to make them look a bit better. But that's basically all you need to know about the angular gradient. You create it, the gradient, you pass in the colors. In this case, red and blue. We could. What other colors go well? What color go well? Blue plus green creates, I believe, blue and yellow create green. Is it? Blue and green creates yellow, blue and green. I'm not sure one of them. Blue and green. Is it blue and yellow create green or something? Okay, yeah, I guess. So you could play around with the colors, and now we're going to look at this is the angular gradient, and you see it goes from an angle, and it's called angular because you can define if you want. Like we could come here and we say, like I said in the previous example, angle is dot degrees, and degrees we could say 30, like so. And you can see it here, slashing like this, slashing like this. So basically that's why it's called an angular gradient. And now we are going to look at the linear gradient. The next gradient we could look at is, I'm guessing, the linear gradient. And for that, we could come here and we could take this code. Let's just take this code and comment it out. And after that, we could come down here and say, let's linear gradient, let's make it one word, gradient. And this is going to be linear gradient, like so. And this one is going to take all this. The gradient is going to be the same colors we have. We could say gradient like so. The starting point is going to be, we could start it at the top, right? You see dots, you can see all these options. We could start it at the top, like so. Dot top, let's click on top. Okay, and the endpoint, we could top to bottom. We could put it at top to bottom. So basically, we could do that and then pass it in to our circle and our button. We could say linear gradient, like so. And instead of angular gradient, we come here and say dot fill linear gradient, like so. And if we run our app, we should see it. Yeah, so you can see it starts off as a bit, you can see the color changes as you go to the bottom. And of course, you could play around with the various starting and end points. You could see we have a number, we have, just put the dot and you can see bottom leading, bottom trailing, center leading, top leading, and yeah, and you can see the colors change as you can pick. So that's how you would work with the linear gradient. Basically the same like angular gradient, but it has start points and end points. Now another thing we could do is we could put stops in the colors and decide where exactly a color starts and where it stops. By default, colors in the gradient are usually distributed evenly, but we can customize that. Now for that, we would come here into the gradient, and in it we could put in stops, right? And stops normally takes an array, and in the array we are going to have let's just put the array here, and in the array we're going to have the color and the location. So the color, the first color we could say we want is dot red, and the location is at the 0 location, like so. And afterwards we could copy this. Let's just copy this. We copy it, come down here, and after we put a comma, we put another color, and after that we put a comma and we put another color. And this can be red, RGB, we could say green, and have this one as blue, and the location for the green can be 0.3, like so, and the blue can be 0.6, like so. So we have red, green, and blue, right? And you can see them. Let's run them in our simulator, and we can see a better image of them. So we have them here, and we have the pill here, and yeah, basically the capsule, I mean. So you can see our colors the way they're. I can't see the red actually, but yeah, but you could put stops in the various colors, like yeah, I guess. Yeah, you could do that actually. You could put in the stops for the color. I'm not seeing the green, to be honest. Unless I'm colorblind, I'm not seeing the the green. I'm not seeing the red, I mean, but I can see it on the. I can see a bit of red here, but here I can't see any red. Anyway, yeah, I can see it on the capsule, but not on the circle. Maybe I'm colorblind for some reason. Yeah, so you could actually set the color location using stops just by passing it in the gradient like that. Third and final gradient is the radial gradient. The radial gradient radiates, if we could put it like that. And how we could see it is we could come here and we could comment out the linear gradient, and after that we could say let radial gradient equals radial gradient, like so. And the radial gradient takes a couple of things. It takes in the gradient. The gradient can just be our color that we supplied. The center can be dot center, and after that the start radius, we could say we wanted to start in the 30 at 30, and end radius is about, let's say, 400, like so. And after that we pass in the radial gradient. You can play around with the figures to see the effect. Radial gradient, and here we have the radial gradient, like so. And I think this G has to be capitalized. We have not capitalized the G, and that's where we see it. So this is what our radial gradient looks like. If we make it smaller, we say 10. Okay, I can't tell the difference. We say 200. Okay, we say 250. Okay, yeah, so you can play around with the figures, see how the start and the end radius applies, and you can apply the gradient to shapes. So basically that's all about the shapes, about the gradients. There's the angular gradient, there's the linear gradient, there's the radial gradient, and there are various things you need to pass to them, and they can all be applied to shapes, and you can use them in backgrounds to create visually appealing backgrounds and whatnot. So basically that's all about gradients. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, like the video, and leave a comment if you have a question about it. And I will see you in the next video.